really eager to have this conversation. And so I guess sometimes I think about it as where it all began, like the little vegan symbol. So I think, well, prior to joining In Defense of Animals, I ran and started a small nonprofit called Public Eye Artists for Animals, and we taught compassion for animals through the arts. And one of the things that came up was some of our community felt as though they wanted to have a vegan church. They wanted to have a place that they felt a sense of belonging and that their spiritual self could be connected to their values. And as a result, we decided to start a little group meeting that was named Vegan Spirituality. And that term was actually coined by a friend of ours who was part of the meeting, Sandy Herman. And so from there, we expanded a little bit when I moved from the East Coast to California and had a vegan spirituality retreat. And so and at the retreat, which was really wonderful, such a great experience, and we had really exploring what it meant to be vegan as a spiritual practice. With we had yoga, we had speakers. I believe Dr. Will Tuttle was our speaker at that event, and that's where I met Dr. Marilyn Kroplik, who was also the president of In Defense of Animals, and she was very interested in bringing a more spiritual perspective to the organization. And so that's how actually I got connected. It was through the vegan spirituality and bringing that into kind of merging that with Marilyn's plan to bring in sustainable activism to In Defense of Animals and have a way to help activists heal from the trauma from being a witness or witness to animal suffering. And so we combined some of these different ideas of this having a spiritual practice, which was spiritual activism along with helping to heal some of the wounds that we had, and that was trauma stewardship, and also there was sacred activism. So we combined all of these three concepts, which were all actually initiated by other people. So there were other people who had written books on those topics, and Marilyn thought this would be so great to help activists with the same issue, the same burnout that's happening in the healthcare field and other places. So that's actually how it all began in terms of offering some of these support services for animal activists. So with In Defense of Animals, we have a support line, and we offer really free counseling for animal activists who are struggling with compassion fatigue, and we provide emotional and spiritual tools via the support line, some webinars, and a support group, all kinds of supportive things.
Mm. Wow, yeah, you do so much. It's amazing that that you're such a sort of multidimensional being, and you're able to create and be, I guess, this really beautiful, nurturing, nourishing kind of role within In Defense of Animals. And for me personally as well, like I feel like, as an activist, I can reach out to you for personal, support, spiritual support as well. Um, we haven't really, we've known each other for a little while. We haven't really connected in that way for me personally. But I do feel like you have this really beautiful energy about you that does invite people to connect with you as a support person. So I'm not surprised that that's something that you've been called to do. So thank you so much for all that work. I think it's amazing that you do that for the activists and the spirituality side of veganism as well. I'd love to hear more about your we've discussed a little bit about the energy and animal spirits and how that kind of works for you, what the spirituality side of animal rights is like for you, and what that looks like. You talked a little bit about Reiki and animals, passing on if they're like cats or dogs or companions.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah. And just a little background. So, for those people who don't know me too well, I actually have a background as a therapist, and so I do movement therapy, group therapy, and that's how I was able to step into that role at In Defense of Animals to offer support because I have a lot of training in doing that. And so, for the soulful part of this, where you're considering what is the soul of this being. I really look at animals and people as very similar, and I look at them as so we might have different shapes and sizes and um, everything, textures, whatever, but we all have a soul. And to me, that's what I interact with, whether it is through Reiki, which is a hands on healing, um, or whether it's being present with them. Uh, and I think it's in a way it's a lot of similar skills to being supportive to other people.
Mm.
A lot of it isn't so much giving everybody advice, more as really being there and being present with whatever they're struggling with. And a lot of people who do witnessing as part of their activism are doing that as well. Just really being present with that animal. We can't always fix everything, but we're there. And I think that's really important. And I noticed that animals offer this kind of support to one another as well. So when you might notice this, anyone who has an animal companion, when one of them is not well, you may see that others just sitting near each other. And I think that's a really important part of support in all the human and animal worlds because we may not think of it that way, but just physically and emotionally and spiritually, just being near that person and providing that kind of support. And that might be the same whether the person is a human or an animal. So I think that's a part of it. And I learned this actually from my feline companions because when one of them was very sick, the other ones just sat around the sick one. And I thought, they're there giving support just by being present with that other kitty who's ill or dying. And so that's what I've really tried to do with um, animals. If I find them on the roadside and they're passing, and just being near them, being supportive. If there's something clearly I can do, such as bring them to a wildlife rehab center, I always do that. But if it's clear that they are not going to make it, then it's just being there and being supportive with them. And so, just like we would want to be with others. And I had this experience not too long ago. Actually, it's almost a year anniversary since my cat Chico died, and he was just such a bright light in my life. I mean, honestly, it's probably taken me most of this year to start to normalize again. But when he was passing, he had a kidney disease, which is kind of a common way for cats to die because they depend heavily on protein, and then it's hard on their kidneys. So he was in the end stages of the kidney disease, and then being able to be with him, like as he was passing. We spent time together beforehand where I was able to just, really just lie next to him and be outside and try to do special things, which I think is really important for all of us as we're passing, is just to really be close to the people that we love, the beings that we love, the special things that we love to do. Um, but then in the moment where he was passing, I was able to just notice a little bit of what he was going through physically, and he was starting to like move with his feet. His little paws were just running, 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 running. And this was really significant because while he was ill, he actually lost the use of his back legs because kidney disease really affects your stamina and also just the functioning of the back end of the body. And so he wasn't able to use his legs as well. But then I noticed suddenly when he was transitioning, he was able to physically, he was on his side, but he was moving his legs. And I got the feeling that they were functioning for him. And also that he was observing where he was going. He was looking towards something or someone, and he was headed that direction. And so I was really there, just rooting him on, really being as supportive as I could be, just telling him, you know, Chico, I love you so much. You can do it. You can do it. Like I felt like I was with him as he was like running towards the edge of this cliff, and he was going to like take flight at some point, and I was just letting him know, you can do it. You can actually make this leap of faith, because truly that passing from one world into the next is like the greatest leap of faith that we'll ever make. We don't know where we're going, and then we just have to take the leap. And so I got this incredible sense of freedom that he had from this leap, because his body wasn't functioning in the way that it was pleasing to him any longer, and that this leap, like even if he didn't know where he was going, he was going towards something that was calling him and drawing him forward. So I think it was a very profound also for me to see that um, that he was going somewhere. And so perhaps that's part of the experience as we all transition over, that we're headed somewhere, and that we have some sense of what that is, and that it's worth making that leap. It's worth activating our little legs so that we can take that jump.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's as you say, I think a lot of people can relate to that within our own lives as well. You know, we can relate to animals in that way, that if you know our lives sometimes feel like we're at the edge of a cliff. Like for me personally, with this event, I've been um, getting to that point where it's just like, okay, just got to jump, just got to jump, just got to take the leap of faith. You know, I put a quote up the other day leading up to this. I think it says um, something about uh, what if I fall, but actually, what if you fly? Like there's the two options. You jump and you fall and you crash and burn, or you jump and you fly, you grow wings. And it's actually probably much more likely for us to grow wings or open up the wings that we already have and fly. And so I feel like that's a really beautiful quote that really spoke to me, relating to this event and life in general. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that analogy for the animals as well, and how, for them passing on, for them moving into the next, stage of their life cycle. I don't know how you feel also about the idea of reincarnation and the idea of animals coming back. Um, I had a question. I did an event similar to this a couple of months ago, and I had a question about animals coming back as humans or us coming back as animals, and I wondered if you had any insight into that and how you feel about that.
Well, that's a good question. And I actually don't have the ultimate answer to that question, but I would say that to me, I don't think there would be anything different between humans and animals in the way that, like, if there is reincarnation, I don't think that I would only be reincarnating as a human, or that only a cat would be a cat. I think there might be some flexibility there. Um, and I have a dear friend who actually wrote a book called The Reincarnation of a Cat and has had her cat reincarnate in a new kitty's body a couple of times. And it's really remarkable. And she has very clear signs that this has happened. And so I really believe that this has happened for her. And I don't know if that's happened for me with any of my kitties. I always feel like, oh, this is a brand new soul that I have. But there are these ideas of walk-ins too, that a kitty could walk into another kitty's body. And I did have one kitty that passed, and I spoke to an animal communicator, and they said, oh, this kitty is a walk-in of your other kitty. And so I noticed it was so interesting, because then the kitty was literally sitting in the same spots that the other cat sat in all these different spots. And I thought, huh, that's amazing. Maybe there is something to that. Um, but I don't know for sure. I haven't had that level of experience with reincarnation or with uh, my companion animals. So I think that the verdict is out on that, in terms of what happens, when we die. I really think that it is the greatest mystery, and that we really won't know for sure until it happens. Um, but I do think that there's a beautiful story that's actually a Sufi tale, and it's one that I think about with regards to passing or major um, life events or crossings, also with transitions. So it's this amazing tale of the, a river, and this river is just flowing along and going along, all through the different ecosystems and habitats, and it comes to this edge of a cliff, which we have mentioned a couple times so far, and it doesn't know what to do. The water is wondering, what do I do? I mean, here I am at the end of a cliff, and I don't know how I'm going to then join, with the ocean. I'm not sure how that's going to happen. And so in the tale, um, the knowledge that the water doesn't know, but the water leaps off this cliff and, could become a waterfall. But what it becomes is, it actually, the water like evaporates, and it becomes part of a cloud, which then rains down into the ocean. So it's just this incredible story about how we might not know how we're going to end up in the right place at the right time. But we trust and we take that leap of faith, and somehow we find the places that we're supposed to be.
Mm. Yeah, that's a beautiful reminder. Thank you. That's such a cool story. I love that. It's really nice to visualize. Throughout our lives, we have these challenges and like difficulties, or not even, I guess, difficulties, but times that we are really just opportunities for us to grow, and jumping off that cliff and just saying, however it happens, however I land, it might not look how I have it in my head, but it could be even better. Who knows? And the idea of like raining down into the ocean, that's really beautiful. That's a really lovely analogy. And I guess we can kind of see that as like the essence of who we are. We're able to kind of merge, I guess, with the consciousness of the water, or of the universe, or our communities, or that kind of brings me to the idea of unity consciousness, which we're going to be talking a little bit about on Thursday with another speaker as well. But I wondered if you have insights into that as well, relating to animals and like animal communication, and what your experience is with people who do that kind of work with animal communicators.
Mm. Well, I think that they do have this special skill and talent to like tap into what's happening with animals, and they use visuals often, like communicate through visual imagery, and that probably all of us can do that to some extent with our animal companions or other animals, is just send the pictures of what it is that we're looking to, what we want, how we want to communicate, even where we are. I mean, there's some interesting studies. um, I think Rupert Sheldrake talked about this, that you can, just thinking about, oh, I'm going home, you start to visualize home, and then your animal companions who are at home, they pick up on that, and they go and sit and wait at the door because they know that you're there. So there's something that we're communicating visually. And there was a person who studied also parrots, I believe, and was able to communicate through imagery, um, what they were thinking. And so I think that that also applies to this kind of universal consciousness that's happening. We're all kind of thinking of these things, and it starts to just um, come into the consciousness of the era of what's happening. So there's a lot of interesting discoveries that happened in many places simultaneously around the world. Like I think calculus is one of those, and evolution. These things kind of came to be around the same time from different people, and I think that that's part of what happens with consciousness raising um, experiences, and that will also happen, I believe, with animals and animal rights and animal liberation. That there's this growing consciousness that's happening within each of us as we learn and we share, and this information kind of envelops the globe, and also with the animals themselves. There's a kind of a combination. The animals as well are, seeking their freedom. And I do think that these will come together in this really beautiful and loving revolution.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really amazing time for us to be alive, and I feel like we've all kind of incarnated at this time in the Earth's history to be here to help raise the consciousness and shift into a new paradigm and create a new world where, for me, like I value freedom for all beings, and same for most animal rights activists. It's like it's liberation, total, animal liberation, total liberation, and yeah, and being part of that shift now, it's really amazing to see how human consciousness is raising, and people are awakening more and more, and part of that shift is with the animals shifting their consciousness, I guess, as well alongside that. So, do you um, do you see that changing in the way animals are? I don't know if you've maybe got experience with, I've only been in animal rights for a couple of years, really, like not very long. So I don't really know what the movement was like per se before, but maybe you've got more experience of how things have changed. Um, I guess from an activist point of view, whether activists are kind of shifting their consciousness more, and the rise of spirituality through that, and also if animals seem to, from your experience, seem to have like shifted their consciousness. Do you have any insight into that?
Sure. Well, I definitely think that the animal rights movement in general has taken a new strategy. So instead of blaming others and being angry at others because they're not changing, much more of an embracing, much more of um, a belonging, such as inviting people in to try vegan food, and how much better we feel, and really focusing on the positivity versus blaming and shaming others. I think that's been a big shift in the animal rights movement that has happened, and as a result I think that the movement is growing. I mean, so many more people are becoming vegan because they feel um, lovingly and with acceptance and tolerance welcomed. So I think that's very important into growing this movement. And then with the animals, I have heard, it seems to me, more stories, more of these amazing rescue stories of these animals who've literally like jumped off of the back of these transport trucks, and activists will find them, and then they end up being the lucky ones who go to sanctuaries. And I think I just think this is profound. Even in there was a this chicken rescue type of situation. There's a Kaporos, which is a holiday where many chickens are basically, slaughtered in a sacrificial sort of way. And this, I just saw this beautiful video with this person who was able to receive one of the chickens. I think the chicken literally knew, hey, I want to go with you. And the chicken went with this activist because the chicken knew that this is my leap of faith. I've got to do this, or this or something, um, I don't know if the chicken was thinking something bad will happen or something I don't want to happen or something scary will happen, but the idea is that there's some knowledge that's being conveyed that here's a safe person and here is my leap towards safety. And so I think that the animals, because there's a consciousness that the activists are having, animals are starting to also sense, oh, there's this opportunity for freedom. Maybe that's the difference, is that there is an opportunity. There are activists on the ground who can help. And so some of these animals are willing to go to pretty extreme lengths to escape and get out of the situation, which I think is encouraging. And also, just most people who aren't activists often will say, yes, we want to support the freedom of this animal. This animal went to such lengths to get to that state of freedom. And I think that most people are more interested and eager to have these animals be rescued, even if they still have the internal controversy or conflict of eating some animals. They still will see, oh, these ones can be rescued. They want to be rescued.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting from like a liberation kind of point of view, the people who do the actual going in and liberating, open rescues and that kind of thing. Often they say that it is the ones who really want to be they feel, I guess, the energy of the liberators, of the rescuers, and it's them being willing and wanting to actually go with them. So it's not like the rescuers don't necessarily grab everybody and take all those, help all the animals liberate themselves. They have to kind of go with the ones they're guided, I guess, towards the ones who have that sense of they want to be free, or they want to uh, liberate themselves, and they just require some assistance, I guess. Um, so yeah, it's interesting how they working together. It's like this the relationship between the activist and the animal. It's really it's beautiful to see that relationship of them feeling the love and support of the activists, and the fact that they want to bring them safety, I guess, like help them to safety. But it's the perception of it as supporting them and guiding them and allowing them to liberate themselves, as opposed to like I guess like maybe a god complex of like we've got to save them ourselves, and that's kind of like an ego, the ego side of being the rescuer, being the one to like save. I think from my experience, most activists that I know of, it's more of like supporting and guiding them, as opposed to like taking them and just making them be free. Like we can't make that happen. It's like it's a nice relationship between the animal and the activist. And yeah, I think you said, did you say you had a poem related to? Um, we discussed that before when we had a session.
Oh, a poem related to animals passing over. I have more of a meditation
Mm,
type of
yeah.
thing.
Okay. Well, that would be lovely if you're interested to share that with us.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do that. Um, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So, why don't we take a moment and take in a deep breath together, inhaling and then exhaling slowly. And as you do, just let your shoulders drop and let your anything you're holding in your body physically, just let it descend. And then take another inhale, inhaling deeply and exhaling gently. And one more time, taking a nice deep inhale and exhaling softly. And from here, just let your natural breath pattern come back and start to notice your inhale and exhale through the nose. Just notice the temperature of the air as it moves through the nostrils, in and out. And notice whether your breath is short or long. And just observe as your breath begins to slow down and become rhythmic. And from here, we're going to take a little journey. So I'd like you to imagine in your mind's eye that you are resting somewhere in a very safe place. It could be in nature, it could be in a place that's comfortable to you, and you're in a place where you can relax and finally let go. Relaxing your muscles, relaxing your mind, and relaxing even with your breath. And in this relaxed state of being, you find that your soul, the center, the core of your being, is able to drift and float a little bit. So it begins to have a feeling of floating, so much so that you have a sense of shape shifting, so that you shift from this current form of your body into another, into one that has wings, and this floating becomes a soaring. And you're able to soar swiftly through the breeze and rise above where you are. And you're traveling over the landscape and enjoying the feeling of the breeze as you soar. And you look down and see the landscape below you and have fun playing with this sense of soaring. Feel your strength and your power as you fly. Notice as your vision sharpens and you can see clearly below you. Perhaps something in your own life becomes more clear to you from a different perspective. One thing you sense for sure is the freedom that comes with this soaring, this playfulness with the element of air. Feel yourself soaring and turning and moving in new ways, freeing yourself from that box of our physical connection to earth, and now finding a new way to connect. Connecting through that element of air. The winds of change, they flow and they bring us to new places. They bring us to new experiences, and they help us to accept change in our life. Because truly the only permanent thing we have is change, anicca. So feel that sensation of soaring, of shifting into a shape that makes that soaring very pleasurable. Perhaps you're embodying a bird, perhaps a butterfly, perhaps it's a magical creature that you've never seen before. Just take a moment to notice what that feels like in the cells of your being to be totally free, to free your mind, to free your body, to free your soul. And just see if there's a message there for you. Maybe there's a learning. Maybe there's a vision. And accept whatever vision that is, whatever learning that is, whatever comes to you at that moment. And know that you are truly free. And that anytime you want to feel this sensation, you can return to this shape, to this form. And with that, you begin to notice your flight pattern, notice your soaring, and you begin to slowly turn and twist through the air and reconnect with that physical sensation as you move back towards the direction from which you came. Seeing the landscape below you, noticing the detail in the vision and how it begins to change as you slowly begin to shift into a new shape. As you fly and soar, and eventually you begin to feel as though you're floating and hovering, perhaps just above the physical body you were born with. And then slowly sinking back into that shape and form, that welcoming place that you know so well, into your human body. Feel yourself inhabit that space again. Feel your fingers and toes. Sense your breath. Notice the rhythm of your breath and how your body expands as you inhale and contracts as you exhale. Expanding to fill your whole body with air, and then exhale and come back to the center, to the core. And then you feel yourself fully inhabiting your body and connected to the earth, to the ground, and the support that you feel coming from the earth. Just wiggling fingers and toes and beginning to move your shoulders, and very slowly, when you're ready, begin to fully return into your conscious self and gently open your eyes. Thank you for going on that journey and for coming back and being with us again.
That was really, really beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, a little bit, it got me a bit emotional, feeling like so kind of free, and yeah, it was really, really beautiful. Do you have any recordings like that? Do you have anything that you can share with the group that you can go back and listen to?
Well, I did do a recording recently, an animal healing meditation through this 10-10-10. It's meditating it for 10 minutes on the hour 10 on, and it's through Pareen, I think is her name. So that is available. But I used to actually do these most evenings. I worked at a recovery facility, and I would do these in the evenings. And I got that request a lot to create some kind of audio of it. And now, technically, it's more possible. So that's an inspiration. Maybe I'll try to do that sometime.
Yeah, I think it's obviously with what you've been doing for a while and working with activists and the self-care and the support and the spiritual support, there must be there's definitely a need for this kind of thing. I guess as we're all, as I said, we're awakening. The world is awakening. Everybody's kind of shifting their consciousness and raising their consciousness, and activists definitely need the support um, and the spiritual guidance and the spiritual support um, with uh, with everything that we do. So it's definitely a beautiful thing that you're providing. I really really encourage everybody who's watching this either now or on the replay. We have a mirror and Sarah as well. Sarah, oh, Sarah says that was lovely. Thank you. Your voice is so soothing. It really is.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm very inspired by the idea that you mentioned of liberation. I think this concept that you've brought to us is really a gift because it's a good time to really explore what does that mean for us personally and also, globally at this time coming out of the pandemic era and also for the animals because this liberation, the more that we're able to sense into our own freedom and liberation, the more we'll be able to share that collective sensation and that collective intention with the animals who so badly need this. And I think that will also begin to um, enliven their desire to be rescued and to find a new way. And with our help, we can do that. And I love that you were describing earlier about this synergy, this process of whether it's rescue or advocacy. It's a synergistic experience that we all bring to it, the animals and the people, and we're all helping one another to create this beautiful vegan paradigm on the planet that will help to bring freedom to us all.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's it's kind of a funny it's funny and it's not funny at the same time, but we work so hard as activists to bring um, awareness, to raise awareness around animal rights and around veganism and human rights, and it all kind of ties in together. And it's like we don't really want to have to do this, you know. Um, it's yeah, it's a lot of work. So
Yeah, it is a lot of work. And it's also, sometimes activists will share that it's a burden. And I think it's also a gift. So um, it might feel like one or the other depending on what day it is and what's going on. But I think both are very true, you know? Yeah, and just that the work also requires some play on our end and some of that cultivating of that sense of freedom and that sense of um, just enjoying some of the beautiful moments that we can have. We see so much suffering that it's really important to celebrate some of the beauty that we see. And it might even be in the nearby nature, perhaps just seeing, looking out if you have access to seeing a deer in the grass and enjoying just the simple things, or even our animal companions, noticing when they're having peaceful dreams, or being able to to just celebrate a special moment that's really that is positive too. I think that's really important because it's a balance between some of the suffering that we also see, and that really, because we're open hearted, it's so painful. It's maybe more painful than for people who aren't. And there's just so many ways to open up, and that that we're all doing this together. Um, Even those of us who don't consider ourselves activists. Um, I watched this beautiful film. It was My Octopus Teacher,
Mm.
and it's just so amazing. It's truly an amazing film about this man who connects with an octopus, and really getting the visuals, and also getting to know this creature. And I think it was really a special experience. And I thought, wow, it might be different for if the person already was an activist, how they would respond to all of these situations that were going on, versus a person who's just learning about um, to value the lives of these other creatures that are so different from us. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, how are you feeling? I'm just curious.
um, I'm a bit better now, thank you. Yeah, that meditation was really beautiful, really powerful. It kind of unlocked some emotion for me. So, yeah, I guess it's just I've never cried on a live stream before. This is going to go on YouTube as well, but whatever. um, it is. It's just. I guess it's. I'm willing to be vulnerable and willing to be authentic about how I feel. Um,
Mm,
and really,
that's
like,
yeah.
right.
Oh, I was going to say that's so beautiful, because that encourages us all to be that way. It really encourages us to have our feelings and to share them. And um, I do think that's part of this compassionate spreading the message of compassion worldwide is really about being vulnerable. It really is.
Mm. Yeah, and being, we're we're emotional beings as well. We're driven by our love for the animals, and we want them to be. Um, it just needs to not happen.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that part of it for activists, it's like it's really to hold all of this, to hold both at the same time. Like on one hand, we're holding this incredible grief. I mean, I know especially when I first got into activism, I just felt like I could cry a river. I had this bottomless pit of tears. And I can tap into that at any time, I've noticed. So but it's this well of, you could think of it as grief, but it's also compassion. And it's also having this well of love for other living beings. And then on the other hand, we also want to have this vision of these animals receiving what they deserve to receive, receiving this level of care and love and support and comfort uh, and being rescued. All of these things, also being able to feel that. And the more we can sense that, we can bring more of that about on the earth, because it attracts more of that kind of positivity. So one animal communicator friend of mine was saying the uh, the poor baby story. When we think often, oh, this poor baby, sometimes that perpetuates that feeling, and even just replaying in our own mind that the horrible film, or literally the traumatic event that happened. Sometimes that it just builds that into the consciousness, versus what do we want to happen. Let's really put our energy on what we want to happen, even for an animal who's suffering. How can we envelop with them with love? How can we surround them with this sense of support, and that solidarity, that we're with them. Really thinking like, how can I bring that to the world stage? And I think part of it is bringing peace and love to our own everyday lives, and trying to find ways that we can nurture ourselves.
Yeah, the self-care, it's so important, isn't it? Cultivating that positive mindset, and cultivating the you know, really focusing on the beauty as well, and focusing on the positive aspects of our lives and the world, and as you say, being in nature and seeing the deer that's out there, or the frog, or whoever it might be. I'm house sitting at the moment, and I'm looking after a beautiful black cat. She's just gorgeous. She's she's funny. She's like sweet and savage is kind of how, like, seeing her energy, and we all have that within us as well. So I'm like, I get you. Really cool.
Yes, yes.
So just focusing on the positive things as well, and yeah, sometimes we get like um, yeah, sometimes it's easy to um, just, yeah, it's an emotional thing. It's an emotional experience being human. And
It
all
is,
the work that we're doing
yeah,
for the world.
it's, I think it's an emotional experience for all living beings. We all have these emotions, and I really think that we're just so similar on a soul level to all of the animals. And so they also share our grief and they share our joy. And it's so wonderful to see all of that in our animal neighbors, really just getting the sense of that for them, like just to celebrate their joy and to really honor their sorrow too.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You it's there's so much around it all. There's so much that we could. I know you have to go, unfortunately, but maybe we can do this again and we can have another discussion, because I think it's really important. The side of veganism, the side of, well, animal rights, really, and there's just so much to unpack around um, our relationships, the animals and the activists, and the the ways. Um, I'm struggling with words a little bit, but um, I guess it is the unity consciousness. It is like how we are all one, and we see things in animals, and we want to support them. We just want everybody to be happy and in peace, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's part of the larger conversation, and I would be very happy to talk with you about this more. I think there's so much to share, and also really enjoy connecting with you as well.
Mm. Oh, I have so much love for you, Lisa. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful you were able to join us. It was a bit of a shorter one this time, but yeah, maybe we can do this again and we can have another discussion around it all, because I think this, yeah, there's so much that we could say about this. Maybe
Yes.
a less emotional.
Well, I would be happy to. And also, all emotions are welcome. I think that's how we really show up, as being present in the moment, too. So thank you.
Mm. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Really beautiful meditation as well. That that will help a lot of people. So I will put this on YouTube if that's okay with you. If
Of
you're
course, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and thank you for this opportunity. And it's always such a treat to spend some time together. So I look forward to the next time. Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, you have a beautiful evening, and
Thank you.
we'll speak soon. Thank you so much, Lisa. So much love. Bye.
Bye.